Mind Matters, where we take a peek inside the human mind to understand how it influences our attitude and behavior. I'm Liezl Thom, and as always, I am joined by renowned psychologist Dr Eugene VIljoen, who will help us understand ourselves and the people around us a little bit better. Hello, Eugene.
Hi, Liezl. We're getting used to this now.
Yes, I'm starting to feel very comfortable here on your couch. So today we talk about the pursuit of happiness. What is happiness?
I think it's actually quite simple. You're happy when you feel that all your needs and wants have been fulfilled.
So is happiness something we should be striving for?
That's my opinion, because I don't think that happiness will follow if you don't look for it. People are generally quite negative in a negative world, so we need to do something to balance our happy feelings in a world that is maybe marked with a lot of negativity.
But is your predisposition not genetically determined? I mean, some people seem to always view the world as the glass is half full, whereas other people, it doesn't matter how wonderful their lives seem to be from an outsider's perspective, are always focusing on the glass that is half empty.
Sure, and I think that might sort of go back to our previous episode as well, in terms of nature versus nurture. If you have been raised in a family who's been vibey and positive and looking at life in a positive way, it most probably will rub off on you as well, as opposed to someone that has been born into a family with a depressive or a depressed gene. That's definitely going to make it more negative as opposed to positive.
Or where everything is always very serious.
Yes.
Is happiness something that is not necessarily serious, or can you be serious and happy too?
I think one can be serious about happiness, and that's about it. But I personally think that one should sort of pursue happiness, and there are certain things that one should do and can do to get to that level of being.
Like what?
I think you need to know what it is that makes you happy. There are certain things that we love more than other things. Maybe certain things that I like might not necessarily be to your liking, but because it fulfills a need in myself, it might make me happy. There are certain aspects that I think in general, and we might get to that in future episodes, people who feel that they have value towards other people are generally more happier. We also see people who are prone to substance abuse are the ones that isolate themselves. In other words, their whole life becomes extremely inward and becomes very negative. And they are looking for those positive issues in terms of the next fix.
So, there's the saying that if you want answers, you must look inside of yourself. But if I understand you correctly, if you want to be happy, you should stop looking inside yourself and start focusing on other people.
That is definitely the correct way. In focusing inwardly the whole time, I think it is very difficult not to only look at the negative when you focus internally. People generally don't think about themselves when they're happy. It's only when you're not really happy that you focus inwardly.
How do you know if you are happy?
I wish I could answer that question in just one sentence. I don't necessarily know, but you will know when you're not happy. And you are content when you feel good with life and you're energized and you have value and quality of life experiences.
I also heard that those moments where you lose all track of time, that is when you are truly, truly happy. Does that make sense to you?
In one way, yes. but I think many people lose track of time when they are absorbed in their gaming that they are playing on the Xboxes or maybe even on the internet. They can lose a lot of time, but that doesn't necessarily make them happy.
Oh, my boys are very happy when they're allowed to have so much time on the Xbox. So, are we supposed to be happy all the time?
It would be nice if we can, but I don't think that's realistic. Because life throws its things at you, and you obviously need to cope with that. To be eternally happy, I think, is just a myth. I think that is what we would strive for, but it is not necessarily what we will achieve. Life in itself is an event with ups and downs, and we need to deal with that.
We spoke about nature versus nurture the last time. Does temperament influence your happiness quotient?
Depending. I think, certain people might be happy when they spend time with themselves, like an introvert, for instance. Extroverts get their energy from other people, and they will only be happy when they are with other people. So, depending on what your temperament style and your temperament composition looks like, that will determine eventually where you go and seek your happiness.
Is there a correlation between happiness and resilience?
Interesting concept. In terms of the new research, there's a lot being said about the whole aspect of resilience. And the new medications in the field of psychiatry is also looking at the concept of increasing the resilient factor, because it is shown that two people on the couch might be sitting there being confronted with the same issues. The one will be resilient to the issues and the other one might be affected by the same event. What is that? And that comes down to the whole aspect of being resilient. So I do think that if you have an increased aspect of or potential for being resilient, you might sort of manage things in a better way.
We will deal with resilience in a later episode, but I thought that was quite an interesting correlation there between resilience and happiness. Eugene, can money buy happiness?
Initially, yes, maybe, but is it lasting? No, definitely not. So if you would win the lotto, I'm convinced that you will be very happy for a weekend or maybe a few months after that. But is that going to determine long-term happiness? And it has been shown in the research of the most influential and maybe most affluent people in the world. Are they more happier than other people who doesn't have money or the means? And there's definitely no correlation between money and happiness, or being more happy.
Is happiness an external process or an internal process?
I think it's both. I think it is determined by the way in which you perceive your environment and the value that you have in your environment, and what you perceive to be the motivators of your life. And if you've achieved that, in other words, from an internal point of view, and then in terms of the external environment being ready to give you that, then you might be happy. So I think it's both.
So I'm just wondering, if we have this goal in mind, often once we accomplish it, we are not as happy as we thought we would be. Whereas if we look back at our journey leading up to that achievement, we realize we were happier during the work phase.
I think that's an interesting concept, and I think the viewers might also think about this, and I think this is an excellent example that we should actually look at the journey and not necessarily the end goal, because many a time that end goal does not give you the complete elation, and then it might feels like a complete letdown in itself. Let's, for instance, think about a graduation ceremony. People are always on about how wonderful that day will be when you achieve your qualifications. But when the day comes, it's a bit of a letdown. It doesn't feel so good. But again, have they enjoyed the journey up to that event, or do they just define the event as the goal that they want to achieve? And I think we need to look at the journey as opposed to the event.
There you have it. Life's a journey. Enjoy the ride. From Dr. Eugene VIljoen and me, Liezl Thom, take care of yourself. See you next week.